So back to us after this false alarm.
Shebachesed.
So,
Is that right?
yeah. Okay, so one story about basically a couple of stories that will allow us to understand this concept in a way. So the first story is called The Rebbe Who Stood at the Door. And it's about Rebbe Aaron of Karlin, who actually wrote the melody Yachsov. You know Yachsov? Yachsov, no, Shabbat. Very famous Shabbos song. Anyway, and one time he came to a little village and he came to the house of one of his Hasidim who was very far away from Yiddishkeit. And in a way, he completely was assimilated. He forgot who he was. And the Rebbe knocked on the door, and the Chassid wouldn't open the door. And the Rebbe just stood there for hours without saying a word, without moving, just stood there, wouldn't leave his door. Finally, after hours, the guy opened up the door and said, Rebbe, why didn't you leave? And the Rebbe answered, I knew you were there, and I love you too much to give up on you.
Wow.
So in a way, like this is a combination of both Chesed Shebenetzach and Malchut Shebetiferet. Like it's Chesed Shebenetzach because it's a love that doesn't give up. It's perseverance, towards somebody else in this case, but it could be the same towards yourself. And it's Malchut Shebetiferet because it's like a sort of a quiet leadership. Like it's not screaming. It's not too pushy. It's right in the balance.
It's about making a statement without smacking somebody over the head with a hammer.
Right.
Getting a point across in a more subtle way.
It's like the hitting of the rock kind of thing. Spoke about that.
It's the opposite of the hitting of the rock.
Yes,
It's talking to the rock.
Yeah.
Right.
What we spoke about, like the ideal headspace
Right.
that we want.
And it says if Moshe Rabbeinu had spoken to the rock, Mashiach would have come then. So, but we don't look at should have, would have. It is what it is. We needed to learn. No, but this is something that we really need to learn. I'm very bad with it also. I'm not judging you. But it's something that we really need to learn to integrate into our lives, to leave the should have, would have. It's really interesting. I watched this guy. I started telling some of you yesterday. I watched this guy. He was post-traumatic and he burned himself 4 years ago because he wanted to he was both very angry at the world. He really wanted to die, but he also wanted to raise the awareness towards the idea that nobody's talking about the post-traumatic from the army, and they're embarrassed to talk about it themselves, and there are not enough funds to help them. And regardless of the fact that most people will actually 96% will get out of trauma by themselves, but that's regardless. But anyway, he wanted to, make a point. He also wanted to die at that point, but he wanted to make a point. And he got burned like 90%. He hardly survived. And it took, a long time to get him back on his feet. And now, Baruch Hashem, he's back on his feet. He looks very deformed, but Baruch Hashem, he's like, his face is okay, but it's painful, and he's going to have to go through procedures his whole life, and it's much harder than it was before he burned. It was hard enough before he burned himself. It's much harder ever since, right?
And don't cure trauma with trauma.
Right, but they asked him, "Do you regret what he did?" And he said he doesn't. And first of all, now he didn't testify for himself to believe in Hashem at all, or to be a spiritual person before then. And now he's like such a light. He is such an inspiration. And to see him say Shema Yisrael, to see him daven is like unbelievable. It just like opens up the heart.
Wow.
And he said, like, I don't regret it. And he said, when basically not only did I stop regretting it, but what gave me the strength to actually fight to live, because he was between life and death for a long time. He said what actually gave me the will to live was when these few people came to me and said that what I did gave them strength. And it gave me meaning, he says,
Wow.
because I gave them strength. Because finally people started seeing us in a different way, the post-traumatic from the army. So he says, like, like, I don't know if I would have done it again, but he's not angry at himself or at God that life pushed him to such an extreme behavior that caused him even more pain than from before. No, he's like taking every step of life with, wow, like such, I would say hod shebahod. Like when I was looking at him, I was thinking hod shebahod. What's hod shebahod? We talk about it in a couple of weeks. I guess we'll talk about hod shebahod in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So we'll try to focus on where we are today. So the next story I want to tell about is about Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. And Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev is called the lawyer of Am Yisrael, because Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, one of my favorite stories about him, is that when one Yom Kippur, he came to the ark and he opened the ark and he screamed, and he had a note in his hands, and he screamed to Hashem and he said, "This is all that you had done to us this year. And if you forgive us, we'll forgive you."
I remember you told us that on your
Yeah.
phone writing that
Yeah.
stuck with you.
Yeah. It's like, this is all that we have done. This is what all that you have done. And if you forgive us, we'll forgive you. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty presumptuous.
Right. But that's what Levi Yitzchak. But I don't know. Like, on the other hand, I think that in a way, I don't like saying it's Reb Levi Yitzchak. Just like I don't like saying it's Moshe Rabbeinu who said, "Erase me from your book if you erase the people," right? Because in a way, I feel that we need to be inspired by every one of their actions. So I think we need that little chutzpah, like Reb Nachman calls it, holy chutzpah, to come in front of Hashem with like our true selves. Hashem knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're feeling. You know who you're gonna fool, right? So you may as well reveal to yourself what you're not daring to bring up from your subconsciousness to your consciousness. Be honest with where you are in every given moment in regards of Hashem, in regards of reality, in regards of your life, right? So that you can move on to the next step. Don't get stuck in like imagine a conversation even, between you and your spouse or whoever, and you feel like something is on your tongue, but you're afraid to say it. And it's like you get stuck there. The conversation is just so stuck, and you start feeling it boiling inside of you, and you're just not managing. You can't step over to the next joke or the next conversation or the next whatever, because you're stuck in that place. And in a way, when we are not honest with our feelings, with our thoughts towards Hashem, we get stuck, and we can't move on in our growth. So it's really important to come to Hashem with all of me.
It's too bad the opposite is just as true. I've got a problem keeping my mouth shut, as you noticed a few minutes ago. It's just, if I've got something to say, I want to say it, and it doesn't matter how inappropriate it is. Sometimes it doesn't even matter how much it hurts somebody else.
Tiferet.
Yeah, it's got to say it, and it's sort
Right.
of like...
So then you ask yourself, okay, so I know myself. I know I'm like, I might hurt someone because I'm very like, my tongue is sharp, right? So I'm going to learn to say the same thing in a bit of a softer way.
Actually, what I have to do is zip the lip.
No.
Yes, because most of the time, what I want to say is because I want to say it. It's not contributing to the conversation. It's what I want to say in the conversation instead of listening to the other person.
I love our Sunday morning gatherings because everybody can say their everything. That's the beauty of it. Also here, everybody can say anything, right? But the thing is that we really want to make everybody feel comfortable. So don't zip your mouth. Just if you have learned that many of your comments, and I think that so far your comments were completely legitimate to my flavor, But if you know that your comments are sometimes hurtful, don't zip your mouth. Learn to add a grain of sugar into them.
With talk,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the father who had to tell his children some bad news. I gotta be angry with you, so be strong. First he said, okay, get comfortable and be strong. 'Cause
right.
now I'm gonna be angry.
Don't give up on yourself by saying, I'm going to zip my mouth. That's giving up on your progress in your growth.
Well, for me, that's part of my progress. Not
Can't
having
have
food diarrhea.
having a filter. My husband calls it, I have no filter. I'm trying to learn how to
Verbal diarrhea is another
That's an
thing.
excuse.
That's what he says.
That's
So
an excuse.
But he's-
If you're working on your midot,
then you need to redevelop a filter.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like the last Mishnah that we were learning today, we didn't get to it so much, right? But the end of that Mishnah says, don't look at a tree and say how beautiful it is. And I started talking to someone there, and they said, oh, that really, and it hit me really badly also. What do you mean, don't look at a tree and say how beautiful it is? But then I thought that what the Mishnah really meant is don't have verbal diarrhea. Don't have small talk that has nothing to do with nothing. It's not about the tree. It's about make a learning experience from every conversation. Right? You can talk about the beauty of the tree as long as you connect it to the mindfulness of life, to the the experience of life, right? It's like keep that thread going through the tree, right? It's like you're having a real important conversation, like how many times you have a moment with someone, what they call, right? And then you're like, you see a tree, or some people, they have this thing in them is that, like, if we hit like a moment, we got to tell a joke. Why? Because we're so repressed emotionally that I can't hold the intensity of the moment. I have to tell a joke, or I have to take us to another place because it's just too heavy on me right now, right? That's the tree. That's the beauty of the tree. It's not about the beauty of the tree. It's about take the conversation for what it is and continue it for what it is. Don't let any tree or any, mindless thoughts take you away from what's really important in the moment, from the importance of the conversation of this moment.
You have to be able to sit in the emotion.
Yes, learn to sit in that emotion. Exactly. Exactly.
There are
Yeah.
cultures that's how they react. Like the whole culture reacts like that.
Right.
Like tell a joke or something.
Yeah. If something feels too hot to handle, you tell a joke.
Right. Right. And you lose an opportunity. You finally managed to talk about something really important
Yeah.
that you've been maybe waiting your whole life for this conversation, and then it's too intense and you throw it to the garbage.
Two things.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think telling a joke always is hiding something. Sometimes it's
Not
just-
always. I'm just saying sometimes. Yeah.
And the other thing is, maybe the thing they were talking about, the beauty of the tree, what about a cockroach? Same entity created a cockroach, why do we call them ugly? So maybe that's what that means, learn to realize that there's beauty and ugliness in a tree and beauty and ugliness in a cockroach.
That helps us stay in balance. And
Hard for me to compare a cockroach to a tree. I mean,
Oh,
philosophically, I agree with you.
It's like beautiful.
That's the point, it's very difficult.
Aren't you beautiful?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not on your level yet. No.
I'm not on my level yet.
What blows me away when I can be there in my tefillah. Hashem listen, Hashem do. I mean, that blows me away to speak to Hashem like that. I'm addressing boo.
Wow.
I can't have words, but there are words right there. Hashem listen, Hashem do. I mean, it blows me away.
Wow.
If I can get that moment, that's just everything.
So awesome. Right?
That we can have that kasha.
Right. Yeah. Okay, another story about Rabbi Yitzchak. So,
Yes, yes,
so
yes,
Rabbi
yes.
Yitzchak, the lawyer of Am Yisrael, was very known for looking always for the good spot in everybody, even if on the outside that person looked completely far away. So one time he comes into the market and he sees a Jew eating a cholent in the middle of the fast of the 17th of Tammuz. And everybody were like taking their rage out on this person. But the Rebbe came close to him, came to him gently and said, Ribono shel olam, look what a sweet people you have. Even when they're eating during the fast, they're choosing the cholent of Shabbos.
So sweet.
Okay.
Right?
See the positive.
See the positive.
Yeah,
Always see the
yeah.
positive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like again, like Chesed Shebenetzach, if we connect it a bit for a second, right? Like you give love out of the feeling that you're maybe not gonna, you're not gonna. First of all, you're not gonna necessarily fix a person with gevura, with words of musar, of how do you say, rebuke, right? You might fix a person with love, and you might not even fix them with love, but you might just love them, and that will gradually bring them to the place. There's a beautiful story about Rav Kook, very similar to this, that there was a Jew in his time in Jerusalem. All the shops were closed, but there was this one Jew that wouldn't close his shop. Actually, I'm not sure even it was Jerusalem. It might have been Tel Aviv. I'm not sure if it was in the time when Rav Kook was in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem. But anyway, all the shops were closed, and there was this guy who wouldn't close his shop. And everybody were really getting angry at him. And Rav Kook just kept saying, good Shabbos, and hanging out with him for a few moments every Friday, and give him a hug and whatever. And slowly, the guy stopped, opening his shop on Shabbos. Just like, because again, the awesomeness, like how do you bring the awesomeness of Hashem into people's lives without getting on their neck, without choking people, by loving people, by giving them that time to grow on their own time.
It's also because like we want it to stay too.
Right.
That's what I was thinking about. Like if you did everything all at once, you're just like to have something and
Right.
it'll just be like one of these like 5 values or something.
Right. I'll take it to two more places. We say in Tehillim, right? I think Tehillim, we say, or maybe it's a Mishnah. Chanoch lanav al pi darko, gam ki yazkin lo yasur mimena, right? Educate the child in their own way, so that when they grow old, they will never leave the path, right? They will always be on the derech, right? So it's exactly the same thing, And that's one thing that came in my mind. And there was another thing, but I lost my line of thinking. Okay. So I have another two stories if you still have patience. Quick ones.
We're not gonna let them with these rabbis of your teaching. Go for it.
Okay. So the beggar who met the Baal Hatanya.
Modi, it's not your fault.